The first tap was so soft I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. I was sitting at my desk, staring at a blank notebook, trying to force meaning into a day that had felt empty from the moment I woke up. The second tap came a little clearer, sharp enough to pull me from my thoughts, but still gentle, as if whoever stood outside didn't want to startle me. I turned slowly toward the window. At first, I saw only my own reflection, the faint outline of a tired face, dim room behind me, the quiet weight of another evening alone. But then a shape shifted beyond the glass, and my breath caught. A girl stood outside. Her face was pale in the fading light, her hair tucked behind her ears as she leaned closer to the window. When our eyes met, she didn't wave. She didn't smile. She simply mouthed the words, slowly and clearly. "Come outside, now." For a moment, I just stared. There was nothing threatening in her expression. No urgency that felt dangerous. Just something, certain. Calm. Like she knew I would come. And somehow, without fully understanding why, I stood up. I slipped on my shoes, grabbed my jacket, and made my way downstairs, each step echoing faintly through the quiet house. My parents were out for the evening, something about a late dinner with old friends. They'd invited me, but I'd said no. I'd told them I had work to do. That wasn't entirely true. The truth was, I didn't feel like being around people. Not lately. I opened the front door slowly. She was already waiting at the gate. Up close, she looked about my age, maybe 17 or 18. There was something familiar about her, though I couldn't place it. Not someone I knew, exactly. But not a stranger either. "Hi," I said cautiously. "Hi," she replied, her voice soft but steady. For a few seconds, we just stood there, looking at each other. Then she nodded slightly toward the street. "Can you walk with me?" she asked. I hesitated. "I don't even know your name." "Eleanor," she said. "And you're Daniel." That made me pause. "How do you?" "You'll understand," she said gently. "Just, trust me. Please." There was something in her tone, not forceful, not manipulative. Just honest. Like someone asking for help, not demanding it. And strangely, I felt safe. So I nodded. "Okay." We started walking side by side, the quiet hum of the neighborhood wrapping around us. Streetlights flickered on one by one, casting warm circles of light along the pavement. For a while, neither of us spoke. Then, finally, I broke the silence. "So, why did you tap on my window?" Eleanor glanced at me, then ahead again. "Because you've been waiting for something." I let out a small, confused laugh. "That's vague." "It is," she admitted. "But it's true." I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets. "I haven't been waiting for anything. If anything, I've been stuck." She nodded, as if that confirmed something. "Exactly." I frowned. "That doesn't make sense." "It will," she said. "Just give it time." We turned a corner, heading toward the park at the end of the street. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of cut grass and distant flowers. It was peaceful. Too peaceful, maybe. "Do you live around here?" I asked. "Not exactly," she said. "Then how do you know me?" She smiled faintly, but didn't answer. We reached the park gates, and she pushed them open without hesitation. I followed her inside, my curiosity growing with every step. The park was nearly empty. Just a few benches, a quiet swing set, and the soft rustle of leaves in the trees. Eleanor led me to a bench near the center and sat down. I hesitated for a second, then joined her. "You've been carrying a lot," she said after a moment. I stared at the ground. "Everyone carries something." "Yes," she agreed. But not everyone lets it weigh them down the way you have. I didn't respond. Because she was right. I know about your brother, she said gently. My head snapped up. What? I know how much you miss him. My chest tightened. You don't know anything about that. I know you still talk to him sometimes, she continued softly. Even though he's not there to answer. I looked away, blinking quickly. Stop, I muttered. Just, stop. There was no judgment in her voice. No pity either. Just understanding. That's not something to be ashamed of, Daniel. I'm not ashamed, I said, a little too quickly. It's not something you bring up like that. I brought it up because it matters, she said. Silence settled between us again. After a while, I sighed. How do you know all this? She took a deep breath, as if choosing her words carefully. Because I've seen what happens when people don't talk about these things, she said. When they keep everything inside. I swallowed. And what happens? They start to believe they're alone, she said. Even when they're not. I leaned back against the bench, staring up at the darkening sky. I'm not alone, I said quietly. I know, she replied. But you feel like you are. I didn't argue. Because that was the truth. I used to feel that way too, she continued. I glanced at her. Used to? She nodded. A long time ago. What changed? She smiled softly. Someone reminded me that even the smallest connection can make a difference. I frowned slightly. What does that mean? It means, she said, turning to face me fully, that you don't have to fix everything. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to let people in. I let out a slow breath. That's easier said than done. I know, she said. But it's worth it. We sat there for a while, the quiet wrapping around us like a blanket. Then she stood up. Come on, she said. There's one more place I want to show you. I hesitated, then followed her again. We walked deeper into the park, toward a small hill I hadn't noticed before. At the top, there was a single tree, its branches stretching wide against the night sky. Eleanor stopped beneath it. This is where I used to come, she said. For what? I asked. To think, she replied. To breathe. To remember that the world is bigger than whatever I was going through. I looked around. It was quiet, peaceful. The kind of place that made you feel small in a good way. I didn't think places like this mattered, I admitted. They do, she said. Sometimes, you just need a reminder. I nodded slowly. Then I turned to her. Why are you showing me this? She met my eyes. Because you needed to see it. I frowned. But why you? Why not someone else? She hesitated for the first time. Then she said, because once, someone did the same for me. Something about the way she said it made my chest tighten again. Who? I asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small. A folded piece of paper. She handed it to me. What's this? Open it, she said. I unfolded the paper carefully. Inside, there was a short message, written in familiar handwriting. My breath caught. It was my brother's. Keep going, it read. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. You're stronger than you think. My hands trembled slightly. This is his writing, I said. Where did you get this? Eleanor smiled softly, her eyes warm. He wanted you to remember. I looked up at her, my mind racing. How do you know him? I asked. But something had already shifted. A quiet understanding, just out of reach. Eleanor took a small step back. You don't need to understand everything right now, she said gently. You just need to keep going. Wait, I said quickly. Don't go yet. I have so many questions. She shook her head slightly. You already have what you need. That's not true, I insisted. I don't even know who you are. She smiled again, that same calm, knowing smile. I'm someone who needed help once, she said. And now, I help others. That doesn't explain. Daniel, she said softly. I stopped. You're not alone, she continued. You never were. And you never will be. I felt something shift in my chest. Something heavy, lifting, just a little. Take care of yourself, she said. And take care of the people who care about you. I nodded slowly. I will. She stepped back again, the shadows of the tree wrapping around her. And Daniel? Yeah. Keep that note, she said. Not just in your pocket. In your heart. Then, before I could say anything else, she turned and walked away. I watched her go, my mind spinning, my heart full in a way I couldn't quite explain. And then she was gone. I stood there for a long time, the note still in my hand, the quiet of the park settling around me. Eventually, I made my way home. The house was still empty, just as I'd left it. But it didn't feel the same. I went upstairs, sat back at my desk, and looked at the blank notebook in front of me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel stuck. I picked up a pen. And I started to write. Not because I had all the answers. But because I was ready to keep going. Days passed, then weeks. I didn't see Eleanor again. But I didn't need to. Because something had changed. I started talking more. Opening up. Letting people in, little by little. It wasn't easy. But it was worth it. And every now and then, when things felt heavy again, I'd take out the note and read it. Keep going. Simple words. But powerful ones. Because sometimes, that's all you need. Not a perfect plan. Not a clear path. Just a reason to take the next step. And the courage to believe that you don't have to take it alone. Years later, I found myself back at that same park. The same hill. The same tree. I stood there, looking out at the world, feeling the quiet strength of everything I'd been through. And I realized something. Eleanor hadn't just helped me that night. She'd changed the direction of my life. Not by fixing everything. But by reminding me that hope is always there. Sometimes, it just shows up in unexpected ways. Like a soft tap on a window. Or a stranger who feels strangely familiar. Or a simple note that says exactly what you need to hear. I smiled, folding the paper carefully and placing it back in my pocket. Then I took a deep breath. And I kept going. Because no matter how quiet the world may seem, there is always someone who cares, someone who understands, and someone willing to remind you that you are stronger than you think. And sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one connection, one small act of kindness. To change everything.